Let me call upon the second paper presenter of today, Jamie Abraham, research scholar, Christ deemed to be University, Hosur, Bengaluru, Karnataka, to present the paper on negotiation of hybridity in Gravel Heart, a post-colonial reading.
Okay, I'll read. Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I
Good
audible?
afternoon.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, ma'am. Hello.
Shangit, you wait for
Okay,
some
okay,
time. The
fine.
second present.
Ma'am, is my screen is visible?
No, your screen is not visible.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Sangeet, you
Am I
can wait for some time. The second person
Okay.
is going to present her paper.
Okay. Ma'am, is it okay now? Ma'am, is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now your screen
Okay.
is visible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jamie Abraham, full-time research scholar, Christ deemed to be University, Bangalore. And the paper I'm dealing with is Negotiation of Hybridity in Gravel Heart, a post-colonial reading. And the novel, Gravel Heart, is authored by Abdul Raza Gunna. Now let's have a look at the bio sketch of the author. As we know, Abdul Raza Gurna, he was born in 1948 in the Sultanate of Zanzibar, Tanzania, and he moved to United Kingdom in the 1960s as a refugee during the Zanzibar Revolution. Gurna is an emeritus professor of English and postcolonial literatures at the University of Kent. He has authored 10 novels, short stories, essays, criticism, and nonfiction. And his most prestigious success in his life is the awarding of Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 2021. And to say something about it, he was not much famous till the awarding of Nobel Prize. So, a study on his works is surely very relevant in such a scenario since he is the Nobel Prize winner of this current year. Okay. Gravel Heart is his ninth novel, which was written in the year 2017. And I would like to quote the Swedish Academy. And during the announcement of the Nobel Prize in Literature, the Swedish Academy hailed him for his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism and the fate of the refugee in the Gulf between cultures and continents. And uh, this particular designation shows how much his work or his works are important in the arena of post-colonial studies. And today, as we look into this particular text, Gravel Heart, I have done my study on the concept of hybridity, which was actually propounded by the famous Indian American critic and the most famous figure in the post-colonial studies, Homike Baba. And in the book, Location of Culture, which was published in the year 1994, Homike Baba coined certain important terms like hybridity, mimicry, ambivalence, and difference. Okay, then what is hybridity? First of all, Baba he was actually connecting the term hybridity, which was already in use in different disciplines, to the concept of or to the idea of culture. And what is hybridity in terms of Homike Baba? He explains it as the intermixing of cultures. The mixing can be intentional or accidental, and the concept of hybridity itself questions the myth of the purity of race and culture, and it breaks all the borders. And so we can say that hybridity is anti-essentialist and negates every kind of fixity. Then, as we analyze the concept hybridity, first of all, we have to understand and consider the concept third space of enunciation. It's also actually propounded by Homike Bab. And why the third space of enunciation is important in this particular study? Because it is the ambivalent in-between space in which cultures interrelate. In this space, culture is not static but perpetually in motion. And to say something more about this space, the first space is the indigenous or native culture of a particular individual. And the second space in the postcolonial concept is the culture induced by the colonizer. In the third space or the third space of enunciation, where these cultures intermingle and form a productive new culture, allows differences and multiple voices. Thus, it transits the idea of nation state. And let's come to our book, Gravel Heart. The analysis of the novel Gravel Heart is done through the conceptual framework of hybridity, as I have said before. And the two important elements taken into consideration are its characters and systems, in which system can be again classified into political, economic, and education. And let's begin with the first element, characters. Characters, the first and the foremost, the important or the protagonist of the novel is Salim. Okay, he is a boy from Zanzibar, and he flees Zanzibar to England at the age of 17 during the time of a revolution, which was occurred actually in the year 1964. And he is haunted by the mystery behind the separation of his parents. And he integrates to the new culture in England. How he interacts with other cultures is mainly through the reading of their literature and the fascination towards the glamour of London and his life there, and the friendship and engagements with people from different cultures, and by the integration of other cultural practices and lifestyle into his own life. At last, at the end of the story, we can come up to the idea that he says that he doesn't want jokes about becoming an Englishman. That shows how much the concept of hybridity gets actualized in this particular character. And the other main character is Uncle Amir. Uncle Amir is his maternal uncle, and he is appointed as a government officer in London. Actually, he despises the way of life in Zanzibar and modernizes the dilapidated house with several installments like television, ceiling fan, air conditioner, etc. He is very receptive and easily integrates with every new cultures in which he lives and polishes his persona and style. Uncle Amir wants to educate Salim the new culture. For example, it's really an eye-opening incident because he says about having food using spoon and fork. He opines that it is not about becoming a European stooge and giving up your culture. It is to begin thinking about food as a pleasure, as a refinement. And the next characters are the parents to Salim. They are Masood and Saida. Actually, Masood is a passive character who clings on his own culture. At the same time, he is submissive to changes and happy to see Salim in his new style and appearance after his coming back from London. So the conclusion is that he is passive, but at the same time, he has an admiration to the new cultures. He is very submissive to new cultures, like that. Okay, this next character, Salim's mother, Saida, on the other hand, lives in an ambivalent world. She is fascinated by the life of affluent people, but not ready to admit that. And asks his son to watch those characterizations on television as an amusement. But as the novel proceeds, Saida easily transfers to the modernized way of life very easily. And when we come to the systems, first of all, the political system. It is polluted by corruption and manipulation of power. A form of neo-colonialism exists in the power structure, as we can see the gap between the ruler and the ruled in this particular novel. And common people lack opportunities for resistance in fear of punishment. But the economic culture of Zanzibar is also changed by the emergence of new business enterprises, industries, a culture of investment, and very especially through tourism. But the economic system as a whole is managed and controlled by the plunderers in the society. As we know, the colonizer and the colonized have mutual influence in the third space. The best example in the novel is the way how the education is provided in the country. The colonizer has to admit religious education in the school so as to ensure proper enrollment since it is necessary to convince the parents. The local people are no more that much free to follow their religious practices, but they too succumb to this particular situation. As we conclude, we can analyze that every culture is undergoing the process of intermingling. The British, the most powerful colonizers, are forced to accept people from all over the world and becomes the hub of multicultures. Its political, economic, and educational systems are shaped in order to adapt these people. Once conservative Zanzibarian community has also become flexible and receptive. In a way, we can assume that even if colonization hadn't taken place through the continuous process of interaction, cultures would have influenced each other and formed hybrid cultures. Globalization has proved this point, and by understanding what happened to the countries which were not colonized or colonizers in the past, we can come to this conclusion. The third space of enunciation exists everywhere, not only in cultures but also in individuals. Since individuals contribute the production of new cultures, first of all, the concept of hybridity can be applied in an individual level. Thank you.
Jamie, your presentation is very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
My question is that what would you want to say by your title of the research paper, Negotiation of Hybridity?
Okay, negotiation, I took that word in the understanding of the idea or the discussion of hybridity in the paper, Gravel Heart. How the concept of hybridity gets actualized in this particular novel.
And my next question is that you talked about lack of opportunities for the common people because of modernization and hybridity. What may be the other reasons for lack of opportunities of common people in this world?
Okay, ma'am. I meant in a corrupted political system, the people have no much opportunities to resist the corruption or the polluted political system. And in this particular novel, we can come up with a specific example with a character named Hakim. He is actually a person born and brought up in Zanzibar, but he is now a government official. And in the case of the novel, he is a prominent figure, but he is a government official, but he commits so many mistakes or errors, or he is a polluted person in every manner. But certain characters of the novel, they are not they have no opportunities to speak against his activities. That is what I meant in my points. Otherwise, I thought I have read the full book, but otherwise, for example, again saying when I said about educational system also, the colonizers, they are they are prompting the people to be away from the religious practices in some way, especially in their learning materials, the educational materials. But these people have no option to resist it. Thus, in political and educational, absolutely in economic sessions also, there is still a kind of neocolonialism.
Good. I am satisfied with your answers. Do anyone wish to raise your questions? You can ask now to her.
And we can move on to the next presenter.
Okay.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I think, thank you, ma'am. I think Sangeet Negi is ready now with her presentation.
Okay.
You can
Yes,
present
ma'am.
now.
I'm absolutely ready.
Uh,
Okay. The title of my presentation is Fragmentation and Identity Crisis in Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's The Blooming Season for Cacti.
you can go. You can go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. Okay, identity crisis and fragmentation of self have received an impetus in post colonial literature because after colonization, national and individual identities have undergone a great change due to issues of resettlement of newly freed nation, exiles, mass refugees, and the search for self. So that is why post-colonial literature is just like it's just not like narrating a story, but it defines experience, self, and identity. So according to Gardner, identity is a paradoxical term associated with same and distinctiveness. But whereas Saruki defines identity as a way a person
Your first slide only is visible. Your title slide is only visible for the audience. What happened to you, Sangeet? You are not audible.
Ma'am, she left the meeting.
Yeah, we can proceed with the third presenter of today, Anil Kumar Mandal, research scholar, Department of English,
Hello.
Patna University.
Ma'am, can I continue because there is a signal problem?
Okay, you can continue.
Okay, fine.
You can continue, but the
Okay,
presentation
okay,
is
thank you.
not
Okay, I'll
visible.
try. Okay. So I'll just read my paper. Post-colonial women write and become a means of establishing autonomous selfhood of women. Also, Indian English women writer as well as Indian diasporic women took an initiative to represent the identity of women by exposing the cultural suffering of women in India and abroad. The question of female identity becomes quickly evident in their writing. They talk about the fragmentation of self at length, which a woman goes through in an alien land where she is uprooted not only from place but language and culture. Along with that, patriarchy is also represented as a catalyst to put their identity into crisis. So, as the text I have taken is Indian diasporic text, so let me just explain that earlier diasporic women writers deal with issue of cross-cultural experience, the idea of homeland, harsh journey taken up by them, culture shock, and language problem. Whereas new diasporic women experience is quite different. They enjoy being in a new culture as it would give them a better prospect, sense of freedom from patriarchal society. So, one of the writer who has represented culture dilemma, complexity of identity of immigrant women is Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. So Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni is an award-winning Indian American author. In 1976, she left Calcutta for the United States. Her own experience is fueled. Her own experience fueled her writing as a first-generation immigrant and a woman between culture and tradition. Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni stands tall among her contemporaries because of her major works like The Mister of Spices, Sister of My Heart, Wine of Desire, Queen of Dreams, The Palace of Illusion novel, Olinda Girl, An Amazing Thing, Arranged Marriage, and Unknown Eras of Her Life. In this paper, her short story, The Blooming Season for Cacti, which has been published in her short story collection, An Unknown Eras of Life, has been taken up to identify the fragmentation of self and identity crisis of two immigrant women. The methodology adopted in this text is formal textual and socioculture. This text is a powerful example of a kind of narrative that deserves inspection on an individualized level regarding female identity crisis, a generic case of many women struggling to define their identities in patriarchal society and new land. So, according to Erikson, a German psychologist, identity crisis is uncertainty and confusion which makes them insecure due to change in their respective role and aim in society. So, through the lens of identity issues, the text exposes the pain, uncertainty, conflict of immigrant women. So, first of all, the text unveils the anguish and uncertainty of Mira, the protagonist of the text, who was uprooted from her homeland without any choice. Mira lived in Bombay with her mother, whereas her brother was settled in New York. Both mother and daughter were quite happy in their life until Hindu Muslim riot broke out. Her mother saved her by hiding her in a water tank, but what happened to mother? No detail is given in the text. She might have got killed, it was assumed. So when she searched her mother, all she could see the battered bodies of women, which filled her with disgust for man. The streets were filled with weeping, struggling women, their blouses ripped open, the bodies pinned down, the mob yelling encouragement. In that uncertainty, anxiety, Mira has no option but to leave to New York to her brother. So there she felt alienation and suffer from loneliness. So this text also reflects on one side her attachment to her motherland and to the other her feeling of alienation. But home also lost meaning for her as it reminded her of those battered bodies of women and her lost mother. The text also reveals how patriarchy conditioned women to be vulnerable, dependent, and does not let them form their identity and keep them in a state of confusion. So before Roy, her brother reminded her how vulnerable she is, and he warned her it is not safe in India. She was reminded a woman can be secure and safe if she is married. So even in New York, she had to bear the pressure of marriage. That was the only thing which was on her brother and his wife's mind. She was not asked what she wants, what her identity is. Her anxiety and discomfort, loneliness do not encourage her to give voice to her state of mind, rather, it prompts her to escape. When she could not resist the pressure of marriage, she decided to go to California in a quest for her identity. But there also a conflict remains in her mind about her self identity. But California gave her a hope of a new, free, and a bright life. The text also unfolds that sometimes immigration gives a pleasant experience to a few immigrants who succeed in assimilating themselves into a new geographical, cultural, social environment. But soon her dreams were shattered because patriarchy does not give space to women to breathe even outside their country. People in immigrant communities are more comfortable with women maintaining prior expected behavior. The text also focuses on the patriarchal oppression of women, which gives them a sense of loneliness even in their own homes. Time and again, Mira was reminded that she could not go alone, and it is dangerous for women to go alone, and not only by her brother, but all the men she got acquainted with. And nobody accepted her decisive and independent life. So, woman is always bound by a false sense of morals. She is incapable of being independent. It made their life conflicting and incapable of decision. The text also brings out the uncertainty of second protagonist Radhika. When Meera got a job at Malik's hotel, there she met Radhika, whose condition was even more worse than Meera. She was a young village girl and who was married and brought to California by Malik, the owner of the hotel. She was deeply rooted in patriarchal norms, and for her, marriage is the ultimate goal of women's life. To marry Malik, it was like a dream come true to her because he was rich, educated, and well settled. But when she came to California, she realizes she was deceived by him. He was already married and had children. She realized that she was no more a human but a sex object to gratify his desire. She suffers not only due to patriarchy but in a new country also, because there she was all alone. She did not know their language, their culture, and was completely dependent on Malik. So her state was in a complete dilemma. She could not understand what she should do. She could not even go back to their home due to society pressure. So, her identity in the text is shown as completely crushed by patriarchy. Forget about her identity and selfhood. She was in that state of uncertainty where she committed suicide. But fate does not let her die. She survived, and she was shown filled with a sense of detachment. Radhika accepted her fate like most Indian women, and lived a life which is completely like a fragment. On the contrary, Meera became independent woman. She asserted her individuality, and when they became good friends, and when there is no outlet from the restriction to give in to the suffering, women turns toward women for empathy, and both of the women they found solace in each other. But Malik thought that Radhika is influenced by Meera's radical ideas and independent, and he fired her from the job. And Meera, who had just taken a step towards her discovery of self identity, comes back to her fragmented self. She was left with no job, and at the same time, she has to go back to her brother. Whereas Radhika, she committed suicide again. So, on the basis of the textual analysis, the paper has revisited the social psychological conflict of women through the lenses of identity issues, specifically self fragmentation and identity crisis of immigrant women. The text represents them as a double marginalized as an outsider and victim of patriarchy, though Meera tried to establish her identity but remained in a conflicted state of mind due to her situation. So when a woman assert the text shows that when a woman assert their individuality or feel a sense of freedom, patriarchy shuns it completely. Thank you so much. And I'm extremely sorry for the inconvenience because here we have signal problems also.
Yes, Sangeet, in spite of so many obstacles, at last you have succeeded with your presentation. Your presentation is very good.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And interesting for me because it was my area.
Okay, ma'am.
My first question is that
Yes, ma'am.
did she realize about her identity at any point in her life?
Yes, ma'am. If we talk about the protagonist Meera, she realized it. That is why she went to California uh, uh, to uh, to uh, f- to achieve something which she wanted to achieve. But what happened? The patriarchy becomes so dominant for her that whatever step she takes, she could not go further. So, because there is a feminine consciousness in her that is making aware her that she should make her own identity, she should become independent women, but somehow that patriarchy here plays a major role that does not let her.
And what happens to her at last in her life?
At last she was left with no job, and because she was fired, and the story, it has an open ending, so it is just assumed that obviously when she was not left with anything, so she has only one option to go back to her brother.
So my question is that if she realizes about her identity in life, how can she feel empty in her life?
She
Did she
feels
achieve anything?
to we can say to some extent she tried to form her identity, but what happened, because for her this because though she's an outsider, at the same time in the place where she was working, even at her home, the patriarchy is so dominant that even when she tried to assert her individuality, she was not allowed, means it becomes like an obstacle to her. So that is why the even ending is very open, though there is an inclination in this story that about that these two women, they find solace in each other, and later on she realized that she also have some special kind of feeling towards her, and that give an inclination toward homosexuality. So maybe that emotional fulfillment, she has got that kind of emotional fulfillment, but as a on a political context we consider her identity, she's not able to
Yeah.
prove it. Yeah.
And you have mentioned that she should not be alone. She is incapable of freedom, and marriage
Yes.
is considered to be the ultimate goal of
Goal.
woman in life. And
Yes,
what
ma'am.
may be so now you are living in the modern world, and
Yes,
what
ma'am.
may be the reasons behind uh, these things?
uh, like identity and self, ma'am. Even in the
Mm.
modern world, if we see, all women, they are just struggling to form their identity. Even still, though we say we are living in a very modern world, but still at every phases you are not getting that kind of opportunity which one really need in life. Even if a working woman, she has to compromise so many things, because it is the path is not so easy. Even being educated, being independent, financially independent, there's at so many fronts you have to sacrifice with your identity. Even if you talk about, even on the basis of gender also, because here in the text some kind of inclination is given that both of them, they have such homosexual tendencies there. So maybe they have got such emotional fulfillment, but even in the modern world, uh, people, even women, they lack such kind of emotional fulfillment. They It's not necessary every time they get in their life.
You have resisted well to my questions. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, ma'am.
Dear
Thank you, but ma'am,
audience,
sorry.
if you... Okay, I think she left.
No, no, ma'am, I'm here only.
Ah, yeah. So, dear audience, if you want to raise any questions, you can ask now. So, I think we can move on to the next presenter of today. I call upon Anil Kumar Manjal, Research Scholar, Department of
Okay, thank you,
English,
ma'am.
Patna University. Thank you, Sangeet. Patna University, Patna, Bihar, India, to present his paper on gender discourse in the fiction of Alice Munro. I think he is not here.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Ah,
Am
good
I
afternoon.
am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and including administrations. I'm Anil Kumar Mandal, Research Scholar, Department of English, Patna University, Patna, Bihar, in India. I'm going to present my paper. Uh, Gender discourse in the fiction of Alice Munro. Actually, in the 19th century, gender discourse was a matter of much public discussion and debate in Britain and the United States. The women question, as it was called, focused on whether gender should be a factor in granting or limiting right, like voting right. It also focused attention on men and male social roles, asking questions about the nature and function of gender. Some of the primary questions were: is gender innate and biological? Is it the product of a socialization and environment? Is the family structure internal, universal, divinely ordered? I would like to tell one vital. I would like to quote Semen de Bois. The second sets one statement. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Women have been constrained in their thought, expression, and activities as society has appreciated gender role as well as the norms and condition of their social life. A well observed fact is that human civilization down the ages have differentiated sex from gender and ordained a code of conduct for women. In conformity with socio-cultural patterns, one may be born women, but it is society that is responsible for defining role models for women as a wife, mother, and individuals. The voice of women has been stifled and they have remained unheard in social history as a patriarchal hierarchy has compelled them to remain a shadow of their inner selves. The voice of women in Canada has always been a loud cry protest against social culture and male hegemony, marginalized, oppressed, and victimized by social setups. The condition of Canadian women was not better than in other countries across the globe. Therefore, a quest for a private space and the assertion of inner self was a primary concern for Canadian women. While consciousness against subjugation had been long standing one, it took the form of an organized movement in 1929 with the feminist voice, their demand for political right and right to vote and elect representative. It also focused attention on men and male social roles, asking questions about the nature and function of gender. Some primary questions regarding gender, a matter of much public discussion and debate, is gender innate or biological? Next, I have included some the story of the fiction of Alice Munro, in which the gender has been much debated, and I think Alice Munro inner voice has presented the voice of a woman, and they have quest for their identity. In order to reform, in order to social reform, Munro social sought to focus on creating a consciousness of victimization of women by retelling the many untold stories of women's marginalized because of gender biasness and fundamental realities of women's life. Munro has many and creative work which are the reconstruction of an inner space and position for women against the traditional gender patterns and social imposition. These are the prime concern for vibrant gender issue. Munro's first collection, Dance of the Happy Set. Dance of the Happy Sets is the first collection of Munro short story, and in this short story, you will see that the Munro has, the Munro character is, the two characters are in all the her story. One is the narrator as a girl, and one is the character as a mother. I think the Munro has mainly focused on as a mother's life, and a narrator is sometimes girls, sometimes a adult women, like that. And Dance of the Happy Sets, female quest is slightly different from that of the other collection. The mark of the individuality and female experience gender biasness in trying to accommodate themselves to their environment. This is evident in Walker Brothers Cowboy. This is the another story of Alice Munro, in which Alice Munro has where Munro concentrates upon the questioning mind and introspective nature of the child as she curiously observes the adult world of her father and his unconsummated love. Significantly, this story forms the literal base for all the later chronicles a female experience that follow. In other story, in this volume of Happy Episodes, in other story, this collection, the office, Munro problematized the concept of society's inability to accept a woman as a writer. I mean, in this office story, the Munro had mostly they have tried to quest a place for a woman in writing of the world. I mean, as a writer, women is not established in the world. Why? The story is an exposition of the male prejudice against women artists, as writing was generally considered as a male prerogative. Nevertheless, the gender discrimination is most explicit in the next story, in this the boys and girls, where Munro uncovers the social and familial attitudes towards the two sexes. The story focuses on the social norms and conditions which govern a young girl from her early formative age. The protagonist is a young girl growing up in a fox farmer where she watches her father pelting fox for a skin trade. The narrator proudly helps her father in feeding the foxes, bringing water, and clearing the dishes. The family's quest for her inner self begins at this early stage when the thinks of herself as equal to her brother, Laird, and the other male cow workers in the farms. The dislikes the female world of her mother, but rather imitates her father, feels immense pride when she compared with the male workers and tries to exercise strong masculine qualities at night under the cover. She tells her brother stories of heroism, bloodness, and self-sacrifice that were essentially considered as male qualities. Yet towards the end of the story, when her father prepares to shoot the horse Flora, she lets the horse free. The financial statement by the girl's father, she is only a girl. In the story of boys and girls, mostly there is a girl narrator and she is working with his father in his fox farmer business, and he is just handling all the business of his father as a male co-worker of that farm. As the girl is growing, his father is always telling to him that no, you are a girl, and a girl work is not here in business. Her work is in the kitchens, and here that girl is then that girl is differentiated by differentiated to a boy, and it is made him realize that it is made him her realize that you are not a male one. So finally, this my research paper also has included the story of the lives of girls and women, and all the stories in which there has been a clear picture of gender discrimination and gender studies. So finally, this research paper also endeavors to analyze interdisciplinary perspectives to popular and worldwide gender discourse, in which Alice Munro, as a celebrated creative genius, opened to us all the manifested meaning of the modern human life. That's all, ma'am. If is there any questions, you may ask to me.
Anil Kumar, you talked about the gender discourse in the fiction of Alice Munro, and
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said, yes, and you said all the fiction has all the fiction of Alice Munro have the same theme
Yeah.
as gender discourse,
Almost
and
it
you
is the
also talked about the role of mother. Role
yeah.
of mother plays an important role in the fiction of Alice Munro. Can you
Yeah.
explain it?
Actually,
Role of, can you explain about the role of mother in the
as a
fiction of Alice
storyteller,
Munro?
Alice Munro has constructed their plot of her story as a, I means there is sure one character as a mother, and I think this mother character is as a teaching character to entire the story to the readers, and that's are I think this is that characters, the mother characters voice is as the inner voice of a woman, a present women, of modern women, that what is her inner voice in the society, and through that she is trying to expose the women, their conditions, their plights, and their voices.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you, Anil Kumar. If anyone have any questions, you can ask now to him. So we can move on to the last participant of this session, Soumya S.J., full-time research scholar,
Thank you.
Sri Ayyappa.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anil Kumar. Soumya S.J., full-time research scholar, Sri Ayyappa College for Women, Chungangadai, to present her paper on anxious of female characters in Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crack.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I think
Good
I'm audible
afternoon.
for you. As it
Yes.
is raining heavily here, I'm not opening my video, so please be cooperate with me. I think it's
Okay,
not an
no
issue for
problem.
me. Okay, ma'am. So my topic is anguishes of women characters, female characters in Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake. And this anguishes, by this word anguishes, what I meant is the mental agony or mental trauma suffered by all of the people. And here, especially, I'm dealing with the women characters in this novel written by Margaret Atwood. So about trauma, it is an emotional reaction to any incidents which are terrible, like rapes or accidents or some losses or other disasters. And it is one of the most debated emotional problems in the present world. If it is not diagnosed in the beginning, it will create incurable health issues for the victim also. And this trauma will affect both the mind and the body because it is associated with physical health issues like headache or some chronic fatigue are also there. So it affects our mind and body, and also both men and women are equally affected by trauma or this kind of mental agonies. But considering for a deep knowledge, women are more in number who are suffering this trauma. And female trauma is a most discussed theme at the present era, and especially in Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake, the female characters Oryx and Sharon, they are facing many traumatic situations in their life. Oryx is about Oryx. She's one of the major characters in the novel, along with Snowman and Craig. And Oryx trauma starts from the after effects of her bad childhood experience, and Sharon's trauma begins after her marriage. Oryx find her way to positivity through many other activities in her life. So she could overcome her traumatic situation.
Soumya?
Yes, ma'am.
You can continue your presentation.
Okay. Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood is a speculative fiction with various themes and motives. It talks about a world after complete destruction created by the overuse of science, war, and global warming, and in a post-apocalyptic era. The characters of the novel represent the victimization of modern world where there is no consideration towards humanity. The major character in this novel is Snowman, or his other name is Jimmy. He appears in two genres. One is a pre-apocalyptic apocalyptic year, and the other one is a post-apocalyptic year. And about our topic, the Oryx and Sharon and their traumatic situation. When we come to Oryx, the introduction of Oryx itself is a sympathetic one. And when Jimmy and Craig see Oryx for the first time in a child pornographic site, and surprisingly, the two boys are only 10 and 11 years old. In the pre-apocalyptic period, the moral destruction of boys is we can see here. Boys and girls, both boys and girls are there. And about Oryx, they see little Oryx in a porn site. She, along with other children, are engaging in some sexual activities, and it gives an explanation to the activities which are really haunting for all the readers. The pathetic situation can be seen when Oryx look at the camera directly. Her childish and sympathetic face explain the trauma she goes through in her forced sex work. As Jimmy is more humane than Craig, he cannot enjoy the video, and the eyes of Oryx haunts him, as well as the readers from then onwards. Oryx becomes a haunting experience for all those who have experienced this novel. Even in the present time itself, Jimmy, that means in the post-apocalyptic era, as Snowman, he hears the voice of Oryx as an after effect of this haunting. And about the novelist gives us a detailed background about Oryx, and it is revealed through an investigation made by Jimmy, and he remembers the tedious effort he undertakes to summarize about Oryx, because Oryx never gave a detailed summary about herself, but Jimmy collected all her experience from little words given by Oryx. And the fragmented information he has collected about Oryx are not a completed one. Jimmy has a photograph of Oryx for gathering information about her. Even though Jimmy finds Oryx, she responds evasively to his questions, and this shows her attitude towards her absurd life situation. And the trauma of Oryx, or the mental agony of Oryx, starts from her childhood itself. The information collected by Jimmy about Oryx is highly pathetic one. Oryx's life is a product of poverty. The poverty of Asian countries and their forced sexual labor are revealed here in this novel. Oryx is born in a poor village in Asia. Oryx has only a vague memory about her early childhood. That means less than 5 years, she has only a very vague memory about her life. In that village, most of the families are poor, so they sell their children to businessman whose name is Uncle N. It's not clear to her, that is, he remembers only the word N, E-N. This businessman is settled in the city, and he takes away the children. As per the information given by this man, the children work as flower sellers. Some of the families sell more than one child to him. Thus, Oryx, along with 2 of her brothers, are sold to this businessman. The chaos of Oryx's life starts from here, because she, along with the 2 of her brothers, travel to an unknown city. And when they reach the city, this N, the Uncle N, confines them with other children in a room. They also have the same stories like Oryx, a group of children with same traumatic faces. She can still remember that faces in her memory. Even though in the beginning they sell flowers, and later Oryx's angelic look and the fragile nature put her into the danger of sexual predators. In Oryx's memory, one man asks her to come along with him, and when he says this to Uncle N, he tells her to go with him without any hesitation. And she has no option other than that of going with him. Later, Uncle N regularly takes her to different hotels and makes money out of this young girl. When Oryx remembers all these things for Jimmy, she cannot hide her childhood trauma from her face. It is evident in her face. Then onwards, she became a child pornographic artist and a video during that period is viewed by Jimmy and Craig, and both of these young men have affinity towards her. But Craig's love was not sincere. He loved Oryx only for her sexual use, but Jimmy has an intense care for this Oryx. Craig and Oryx eventually become life partners, and despite all the traumas, she starts a new life with much positive attitude. That's a major one thing in Oryx's life. That means even though she has all these traumatic experience in her life, she finds some positive attitude, and that helps her to live a better life in her later life. Craig's attitude towards her purely materialistic even after their marriage, but still she finds happiness in various activities like teaching and other things. While Jimmy arrives again in her life on certain period. There they started a secret affair, and that leads to her death also. That means Craig now become known about this secret affair between this Jimmy and Craig, and soon after Craig kills this Oryx in front of Jimmy, and this was a shock for Jimmy, and it becomes clear that Oryx's life with Craig is a pathetic one, and she can live happy life only with Jimmy. And even though she faces many difficulties in Craig's life, she found happiness in Jimmy, in relation with Jimmy, and she has led a happy life later. And the next major character is it is Sharon. It's another major woman character, or major means it's an important character in Oryx and Craig. This that is Jimmy's mother, Sharon. Readers are not aware about the life of Sharon before her marriage. We know only the life after marriage of this Sharon. And Snowman's emotional memories about his mother is the only way to understand the traumatic life she has undergone. We are knowing about this Sharon with the words given by Snowman. That is from his memory about her. Sharon wants to live a peaceful life with her family. She believes in nature and its beauty. She loves nature, the environment very much. In the case of Jimmy's father, he spends his time in researching about new scientific discoveries and genetically modified creatures. One of those creatures is a orangutan, and even though Jimmy is fond of this pet, Sharon is disturbed due to its confinement. That means this Jimmy's father confined this creature raccoon, but Sharon do not like this kind of confinement to anyone, even it is a human being or it is an other living organism. And one of the major noticeable thing in this matter is the children are the most suffering part of this trauma in family. That it is clear with Snowman. Especially in the case of mothers, the children become alone in the midst of many people. And here, in the case of Jimmy, he also tries hard to get back his mother as a normal woman. And the depression leads and trauma are unexplainable to anyone. The mother felt a lot of depression and trauma in her life. And finally, she left her home and with carrying that raccoon with her, and it was a very depressing event for Jimmy, and he lost his mother as well as his pet animal. So and finally this woman killed by the police investigators, and it was also a shock for Jimmy also. And here in this novel, my favorite is about what anguishes or mental agonies or trauma of female characters, but there are other characters also undergoing this traumatic situation. And one perfect example is Jimmy itself, and Jimmy in her pre-apocalyptic life and also in the post-apocalyptic life, he faces many traumatic situations. So that's about my paper. And trauma should be, or mental agony should be identified by the other people, and it should get enough cure and enough treatment for them to get rid of this situation. Margaret Atwood's novel, Oryx and Crake, is a mixture of many themes and motives, but this trauma is a major theme. I could identify an important one in this novel. Thank you for the opportunity to present a paper here.
Soumya, your presentation is very good. And happy childhood experiences help a person to shape his personality and psyche, right?
Yes, of course.
And the bad childhood experiences affect the psyche of the person.
Yes, ma'am.
And you talked about the some bad childhood experiences of the protagonist of this particular novel, Oryx and Crack,
Yes,
by
yes.
Margaret Atwood. Can you
Yes.
explain it?
Yes, ma'am. In the case of two characters, one is Oryx and the other one is Jimmy, and now he's known as Snowman. Both have experienced a lot of traumatic situation or mental dissatisfaction in their childhood. And when the case of Oryx, she has put into sex workers in this early childhood, and it was really a bad experience. It is not at all happy one, and it's clear for all. And that lead her life a miserable one in the later life. But still, she overcome all the situation to find positivity in her life. That's a thing. Still, that traumatic element exists in her life, all over in her life. And in the case of Jimmy also, this mother's depression, the father's uncaring nature, the missing of his dearest pet animal, or all affected in her childhood, and it led him depressed one in his later life. And in the case of Sharon, this writer does not giving us any explanation about her childhood. The Sharon's incident is different, and we know her mental agony only after her marriage. But these two characters, this Oryx and this Jimmy, are a perfect example of childhood traumatic people.
Thank you, Soumya. I thank all the 4 paper presenters of today's first session. Thank you all once again. My suggestions for you to improve yourselves are: read some more feministic, psychoanalytical, and cultural theories to enlighten your research papers in more light. Thank you all. Have a good day.